Welcome to Veil of Time, where we unveil the buried stories of history that you probably didn't learn in school. Today we're diving into the Kingdom of Kush, a civilization that gave Egypt a run for its money. While the pharaohs get all the spotlight, the Kushites had their own empire, complete with queens who commanded armies and pyramids that rivaled the grandeur of Egypt. Let's start at the beginning. Kush was born in the shadow of the great Egyptian empire, located in what we now call Sudan. But don't be fooled. The Nile didn't just nourish Egypt, it also gave rise to Kush, a kingdom that not only thrived but managed to conquer and rule Egypt during its prime. Yes, you heard that right. The Egyptians weren't always the ones in charge. Imagine this, an African kingdom whose rulers were so powerful they crowned themselves pharaohs of Egypt. Yet today, the Kingdom of Kush barely gets a passing mention. Why is that? Is it just an oversight? Or is there something more going on here? The Kushites didn't just coexist with Egypt, they took it over. In the 8th century BCE, the Kushite kings, often referred to as the Black Pharaohs, united Egypt under their rule, creating the 25th dynasty. You could call it a hostile takeover, but these Kushite pharaohs restored order, revived old traditions, and left behind legacies that defined Egyptian culture. Imagine your neighbor moving into your house and doing a better job at fixing it up. That's essentially what happened. King Pi led the charge, expanding his influence over all of Egypt. His son, Taharka, became one of the most notable pharaohs of the 25th dynasty. He's even mentioned in the Bible. They brought stability during a turbulent time and worked to restore Egypt's ancient grandeur. But how often do we hear about these African rulers when people talk about the pharaohs? Now let's talk about something that should have put Kush on the map. Their warrior queens, the Candaces. These queens didn't just sit on their thrones sipping grape juice, they led armies into battle. Yes, in Kush, powerful women weren't the exception, they were the standard. In fact, the Roman Empire tried to flex its military might on Kush, but Queen Amanirenas, one of the legendary Candaces, fought back and won. She even took a statue of Emperor Augustus as a souvenir. Talk about bringing a trophy home. The Candaces proved that the strength of a nation wasn't limited to the men who ruled it. They were warrior queens in every sense, wielding power over both the battlefield and the royal court. But history books seldom highlight them, even though their story is as epic as any Hollywood blockbuster. While the Egyptian pyramids steal all the headlines, did you know that Kush actually built more pyramids than Egypt? That's right. The pyramids of Meroe, over 200 in number, stand as monuments to the incredible architectural skill of the Kushites. These pyramids were smaller but more numerous, with a different style that reflected their own culture and beliefs. But why are they so overlooked? Perhaps it's because they don't fit the narrative of what we think an African civilization should look like. They're not just imitations of Egyptian pyramids. They represent a different story, a different identity. And maybe that's why their tale has been brushed aside. Kush was more than just an empire of pyramids and warrior queens. It was a hub of wealth and innovation, particularly in ironworking. The Kingdom of Kush was a major producer of iron, forging weapons and tools that were traded far and wide. They traded gold, ivory, and even exotic animals. Kush was the crossroads of ancient Africa, a melting pot of culture, commerce, and ideas. But somehow history has almost buried this story under the sands of time. And then came colonization, and with it, the deliberate erasure of Africa's powerful history. When European explorers first stumbled upon the ruins of Nubia, they were shocked. Pyramids in Sudan, advanced civilizations south of Egypt. It didn't fit the narrative they wanted to tell, so Kush was largely ignored, its history labeled as a mere footnote to Egypt's glory. Imagine finding a library full of incredible stories, but only choosing to read the ones that make you look good. That's exactly what happened here. The history of Kush was written over, or rather, written out, by those who sought to diminish Africa's legacy. Now here's where things get interesting. Some say that the wealth and influence of Kush might have extended far beyond what the records show. Could it be that the Kingdom of Kush played a role in ancient Mediterranean politics? Maybe even influencing the rise of civilizations like Greece or Rome? It's a conspiracy, sure, but one worth pondering. But let's move beyond conspiracies and look at what we do know for certain. The Kingdom of Kush was a cultural and economic powerhouse in its own right, far more than just a shadow of Egypt. The Kushites developed a unique writing system known as Meroitic script, which remains one of the great unsolved mysteries of ancient languages. Imagine that, a lost language that could unlock even more about their civilization, but so far it remains a tantalizing enigma. Furthermore, the art and architecture of Kush were distinct from Egypt, though they were certainly influenced by their northern neighbor. The Kushites carved their own place in history by adapting and innovating, creating something uniquely theirs. Their temples and statues, often featuring Nubian gods and rulers, reveal a blend of indigenous beliefs with Egyptian styles. But this isn't a story of mere imitation. It's one of transformation, of taking foreign influences and making them their own. And when it came to governance, Kush was a land of powerful rulers, both men and women, who defied the conventions of their time. The warrior queens, the Candaces, weren't just anomalies. They were part of a long tradition of female leadership in Nubian society. These women commanded respect and wielded real power, both in the courts and on the battlefield, a testament to the progressive nature of Kushite civilization. Their economy wasn't solely based on warfare or conquest either. Kush was a center for ironworking, and its wealth flowed from its control of key trade routes that linked sub-Saharan Africa to the Mediterranean world. The kingdom's rich resources, gold, ivory, iron, attracted traders from far and wide. This robust trade network not only fueled the Kushite economy, but also allowed the kingdom to thrive long after Egypt had started to decline. And yet, despite all these achievements, the Kingdom of Kush remains a footnote in most history books. Why is that? Part of the answer lies in the colonial narratives that dominated historical scholarship for centuries. European explorers and historians often viewed African civilizations through a biased lens, downplaying their accomplishments and contributions to world history. The great empire of Kush was no exception. Its legacy, much like its pyramids, was buried under layers of neglect and misrepresentation. But the sands of time are shifting, and today scholars and archaeologists are working to uncover more about this fascinating kingdom. Each new discovery, whether it's a temple, a statue, or a fragment of Meroitic script, helps to rewrite the history of Africa and restore Kush to its rightful place as one of the ancient world's great civilizations. The forgotten kingdom is slowly being remembered. As we uncover more about the Kingdom of Kush, we are reminded that history is not just what is written, but what is rediscovered. The stories of Kush, from its warrior queens to its impressive pyramids and thriving trade networks, challenge the narrow narratives that have long dominated the study of ancient civilizations. Each piece of evidence pulled from the sands of Nubia rewrites a part of history, filling in the gaps left by colonial oversight. And with every new find, the legacy of Kush shines brighter, not just as Egypt's rival, but as a beacon of Africa's rich and complex past. After all, the Romans certainly respected the Kushites enough to leave them alone after their failed attempt at conquest. Perhaps they knew Kush was not just another kingdom to be swallowed up. As an African proverb goes, until the lion tells his side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always glorify the hunter. Maybe it's time we heard the lion's side. Today, archaeologists are finally beginning to uncover the true story of Kush, its power, its culture, and its contributions to the ancient world. Pyramids are being restored, texts are being translated, and slowly, Kush is reclaiming its rightful place in history. But the story isn't just about what happened back then, it's about what it means now. The Kingdom of Kush is a testament to African resilience, innovation, and strength. It's a reminder that history is much deeper than what we've been told. And sometimes the most powerful stories are the ones buried beneath layers of forgotten sand. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the past. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Here at Veil of Time, we're pulling back the veil on the stories they don't want you to hear. And remember, history isn't just about what's written, it's about what's hidden.